BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Alasdair Lamont. This is the Scottish Football Podcast, back with the final word on the weekend's action.
Callum McGregor to the edge of the penalty area. He's looking up at the goal. Oh, that is magnificent! That is absolutely magnificent from the Celtic captain!
After another comfortable Old Firm win for Celtic, can Rangers still challenge for the title? Also,
I've had adversity in my career all the time, and I'll always fight. I think I'll be the first to say if I don't think I could turn it around, I'd say at the club. But I
still have that belief in that you can do it.
I definitely have the belief.
how much pressure is Steven Naismith under as Hearts suffer yet another defeat? And
of course we can celebrate together today, everyone. It was a good victory, but then we have to keep working on Monday again and focus on the next game. It's still early in the season and we need to stay humble.
can anyone stop Jimmy Tilline's Aberdeen from winning?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Well, as we record, it's the evening of Sunday the 1st of September, but you'll be hearing this on Monday morning at the earliest. I'm joined for this podcast by Scott Allan, first of all, Celtic Hearts former Celtic midfielder, and also Jamie Murphy, Ayr United's former Rangers winger. Evening to you, gents. Scott, I'll just quickly come to you first of all, because I know that on a personal level it's not been the ideal weekend for you. You broke your wrist, was that right, in your team's draw?
Yeah, I broke my wrist around about the 70-minute mark when we were 2-1 up, and on my way to the hospital on the radio I obviously heard that Dumbarton had equalised in the last minute to obviously take a draw, so a frustrating weekend all round for myself.
Still top of League One though, and likewise Jamie's Ayr, who also had to settle for a point, Jamie, but a draw away at Dunfermline, does that go down as a decent point for you guys?
I think so. It was a difficult game. We went behind, but we managed to get the goal and get back in it. So yeah, I probably think a draw was a fair result. Although we've had a good start, so you can't really complain with it, an away draw. Sure.
Well, there's lots to discuss, but before we get into things in more depth, just want a quick non-Old Firm highlight of the Scottish football weekend. Well, I can guess what yours wasn't, Scott, but was there a high point that you witnessed over the weekend?
Probably not a good highlight, but it'd probably be obviously Hibs conceding late on. I thought Dave was going to get the 3 points for Hibs, and it would have been a good international period to kind of get some work done with the new players that came in. So that was probably my highlight, but not in terms of a happy one, but a big moment, I think.
Jamie, anything for you that stands out?
I think Aberdeen's late winner.
Morris takes on Harman, sends it back across. Naismith! Aberdeen strike late on! And it's Kevin Naismith with his first goal in red and white. And the away supporters behind the goal of Ross Laidlaw spill onto the pitch. There's late drama in Dingwall. And Kevin Naismith...
97 minutes, live on the telly. New signing, new number 9. You could see how much it meant to the fans behind the goal, coming out onto the pitch and stuff like that. But, that's what football's all about. Last minute winners, fans celebrating, people enjoying their new signing, scoring a goal. So that's probably it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we'll come back to that one definitely in a bit more detail. But let's first of all, let me just run through the weekend's headlines. Celtic continued their impressive start to the season with a 3-0 home win over Rangers in the first Old Firm derby of the season. They're joint top of the premiership along with Aberdeen, who also recorded their 4th win from 4 league matches, dramatically defeating Ross County 1-0 in Dingwall on Saturday. In Sunday's other games, Hearts lost 1-0 at home to Dundee United, while Kilmarnock and Hibs drew 1-1 at Rugby Park. On Saturday, Dundee and St Mirren also drew 2-2 at Dens, while Motherwell were 2-1 winners at St Johnstone. And in the SWPL, Rangers' 10-0 win away to Dundee United moves them 2 points clear of Hibs and Celtic at the top of the table after they drew nothing each.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
Okay, well, let's get into the Old Firm game. Scott, I think most people, if you asked them before the game how they thought it was going to go, would have probably predicted something similar to how it did transpire. Was there anything at all about the way the game went that surprised you?
The opening 5-10 minutes, I think, from a Rangers perspective, obviously, we've seen how well Celtic have started the previous games that they've played in, and they've obviously been on the front foot from the first whistle, but there was opportunities there for Rangers. They looked as if they'd put Celtic under a lot of pressure.
At the moment, Sterling back there into the path of Tavernier, controls with the undersoles, a brilliant ball in and headed wide by Matondo. Big chance again, Dessers was behind him. He might well have been the better option just with the trajectory that the ball came into the box with. But Matondo, with his body position all wrong, 10 in, it stays 0-0, but that is another opportunity for Rangers. There was no flag this time.
And in the moments when you have that, you've got to take chances, and obviously there's maybe offsides here or there, but they've got to do better in their positions. But like we've seen with Celtic, once they do get comfortable, they play through you and they get that first goal. Even in fact, the one that was offside was kind of the start of when Celtic took total domination of the game for me.
Nicholas Kuhn in the box, Kyogo's waiting and scores! Vintage Kyogo, vintage Celtic, and the champions hit the front here early on in the first derby of the season. And Kyogo Furahashi's 8th goal.
Devastating.
They are checking for a possible offside here.
I think he might have been a half yard ahead of the game.
This would be against Nicholas Kuhn rather than Kyogo.
Yeah.
So the nervy wait. Offside, no goal, there you go. So it does not count, back to 0-0. There was always going to be drama here this afternoon. And they are...
Jamie, I mean, you know what it's like going to Celtic Park, how difficult it can be. And Celtic have started the season probably almost more impressively than the way they finished last season. Did Rangers, was there anything that they did wrong for you, or is it just a case of Celtic being too good at the moment?
I think there's a bit of both. I think, they had a game plan to press them high and not let them play. And like Scott said there, that worked for 5-10 minutes at the start of the game. But I think the good teams, the best teams, are able to do it consistently throughout the game, not just in spells. And unfortunately for Rangers, Celtic have been doing that for the last couple of seasons. So they've got to find a different way to play against Celtic, as been shown the last 3-4 times, 5 times even, that Clement's played against them. Mm-hmm. They've kind of tried to play the same and it hasn't worked. So that's on him now to think of another plan for the future.
Celtic have obviously lost Matt O'Reilly, Scott, who's clearly a big player for them. They've strengthened in terms of bringing in new players on the deadline day and so on. How do you think they look squad-wise for the season ahead now?
Well, I think first and foremost, what Brendan Rodgers has done with the players who he's worked with over the last season is he's made them as a team and how they're playing a lot better. I think he's made guys who maybe came in last year, they've worked with him, they know what he's looking for. You can definitely see a difference in them. You can see that kind of cohesion between the boys that have been starting regularly for Celtic. I think the players coming in, the signings he's made, takes some getting used to, but I think because how comfortable Celtic were in the game today, they got minutes in a big occasion. They get that feel what a Rangers Celtic game is like, and that can only stand them in good stead.
I think Chris Boyd said on Sky that the Rangers performance was embarrassing. Jamie, Philippe Clement's, and that's now 5 Old Firm games, as Scott says, without a victory. Only a couple of other Rangers managers in their history have started the Rangers career with such a run. How much of the responsibility for the way they're performing at the moment in comparison to Celtic does he have to take?
I think he's probably looking at himself, and I'm sure he's taking a bit of the blame. But again, it can't just be down to the manager and the staff and whoever. The players have to look at themselves as well. Unfortunately, I've been there on the other end, getting beat off a Celtic by a few goals. The first person you should look at is you. Have I played well enough? Have I done enough there to merit a win? And I think most of them will say today that they haven't. Again, we can say they started well again, but Celtic showed their dominance after the first 10-15 minutes. Getting that off, the goal that was eventually offside just seemed to completely change the game, and from then on it was really just Celtics to score as many as they wish.
Here's Kyogo picking up a loose ball, shoots at the edge of the box and scores! That is absolutely magnificent from Kyogo Furuhashi, who once again is slaying Rangers, who are wilting in this pressure cooker.
Scott, you touched on the players who came on for Celtic, the new signings, Luke McCowan being one of them. I just wonder, in terms of maybe some similarities to your own move to Celtic back in the day from Hibs, how tough is that going to be for him to go from being the big fish in a smaller pond to trying to get game time at a club like Celtic?
You have to look at Celtic's strongest starting three in midfield. They've got real quality, and you can see that they all have that connection on the pitch. That's when you see them cutting through like they have, and since the season has started, and they type of team goals, and they've just got a really nice balance in there. So it will be difficult, but there will be opportunities for him as well. I think it's making the most of the opportunities. I don't think he's going to come in and play every week. I think maybe 16, 17 games this season he'll have chances to take, and it's going to be down to him. That is difficult when you have that quality in front of you. Look at myself, when I came in, you do go in thinking I'm good enough to be here, opportunities, but then you have someone like Tom Rogic, for instance, who hit the form of his life when you sign there, and it's very hard to displace someone like that. So he's a Celtic fan, it's his dream, but the footballer in him, he'll believe he's good enough. It's when the time comes, when he gets he starts, and I think he's got a lot of quality. I think it's a great opportunity for him, but he will be ultimately down to him and how he performs on the pitch, because that's what it takes to play for a club like Celtic week in, week out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the weeks and months ahead. Jamie, just finally on Celtic and Rangers, I suppose, as I say, Philippe Clement reckons that Rangers can still challenge for the title. I guess he's going to always say that. Realistically, do you see that happening this season?
Look, it would be silly to write Rangers off completely after a few games. Mm-hmm. But they have to get a lot better. I think in his head he'll be thinking that as well. Even though he's saying all the right things and doing all the right things, I think he knows that Rangers have to get better if they're going to challenge for the title. Third, fourth place at the minute, whatever they are, it's not where Rangers want to be. 4 or 5 points behind the Celtic again, not where you want to be. So they have to improve. They've at least got the next couple of weeks with the new signings, international break, to try and bed him in, get to know how he wants to play. But things have to get a lot better.
Okay, let's move on to Sunday's other games, and I think you could say pretty much the same thing, Jamie, for Hearts at the moment. They lost again at home to Dundee United this time. Where do you think it's going wrong for them?
It's just been a terrible start to the season for them in the league. I think sometimes European games distract your teams in the league a little bit. I think you can see the same at Kilmarnock as well. Mm-hmm. But, Naismith's a good manager, knows the game. I'm sure he'll be looking to improve them. But 6 losses in a row is something that clubs usually look at and start thinking about maybe something changing. Mm-hmm. But again, we're early on in the season, but they'll be looking to pick up points after the international break. I think they have to.
Scott, it strikes me that Steven Naismith was under kind of similar pressure around about this stage last season, and he more than turned it round. And from being across the city that the demands on the Edinburgh clubs from the fans. Do you think he can turn it round again?
I think watching Hearts, and I've seen a lot of Hearts, the problem is the games where they maybe didn't play so well last year, Shankland was producing. And when they don't have Shankland, and I know Liam Boyce, who I think is a fantastic player, just not quite up to match speed or where he wants to probably be at this moment. When you're not getting wee moments of quality that can decide games for you, and you look like conceding, and I do think there's a frailty to Hearts at the moment, especially defensively. The international week probably come at a good time for him, where he can get his group together and really work on things, because they need to stop the rot. It's as simple as that, and that starts from defence usually.
Another good result, you have to say, a really good result for another of your old sides though, Dundee United. How impressed have you been with them on the return to the Premiership?
Wide is Sybil, left hand side. The back heel, Ross Graham on his right foot, deflected and in. And Hearts' miserable run may be about to continue into the international break.
Yeah, I think they've been excellent. There's a real freshness about them this time since they've come up. I think they'll be delighted with that as well. I think when you're winning and you're getting clean sheets, and because Dundee United have had a transition of players over, obviously guys who've been at the club have left, and you get this new batch in, they'll be delighted with how they've started. But it's still early in the season, like Jamie says, for a lot of clubs. There's a long way to go, but there's nothing better than when you get that confidence in your squad from the get-go, and it allows you to build on and getting that first win. And that's where I think the Hearts players now going into their games will be thinking about that win. They need that win.
Interestingly, United have got Rangers at home after the international break. That doesn't look like an easy one for Rangers, the way both teams are going at the moment. Just looking at Hibs, Scott had mentioned earlier, Jamie, about losing that last goal. That's the second week in a row they've lost a late equaliser. It's really frustrating, isn't it, for David Gray, who's looking to get that first league win under his belt?
Yeah, I think you said it there. Frustrating is probably the word that David will say as well. Things look a lot different if they won last week, won this week as well. Extra 4 points at the table, they're immediately in the top 6, and everyone's saying it's a positive start. So they'll be looking for that win as well. Hibs over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of chop and change from above the board, even new owners coming in and new owners coming out with statements before David takes a job and all this kind of thing. So I think Hibs really need to settle down. They need to stick with the manager they've got. They need to work better off the park, which I'm sure they have been doing. But it's up to them to produce on the park. Last couple of weeks, 2 last-minute goals against is frustrating. But they definitely do look, they're going as if they're going in the right direction, albeit pretty slowly.
And Kilmarnock, I suppose, Scott, getting a first point on the board, that's probably quite significant. Do you think they will kick on now that Europe, as to me, they kind of acquitted themselves quite well in Europe, losing narrowly in both ties, but now that that's out of the way, do you see them moving up the league?
Yeah, I do. I think with Derek McInnes, he knows the league so well, and he'll know what it takes to get the best out of his players. He wouldn't have been happy with some of the goals they had been losing earlier on in the season. But like we touched on, Europe does have an effect on players and squads. There's no question about that, and I think that's why he'd obviously come out publicly and said about maybe being given a fixture off here to prepare for it. So I think there's moments in games.
Well, Anderson missed both his penalties for Livingston last season. Can he grab Kilmarnock's first goal of the Premiership campaign? You bet he can. Rolled in Camley. And it's a big moment for Bruce Anderson, his first Killie goal. And it could have just earned him a first point of the season.
When you rescue a point in the last minute of a game, it sometimes feels like a win and you get that bit of confidence. Obviously, Bruce Anderson grabbing it as well, it's good for him, obviously, at a new club. So yeah, I think it'll probably turn Kilmarnock's season for the better.
Okay, well, let's take a quick look back at Saturday's action. Jamie had touched on this earlier on, the disallowed goals, VAR controversy, a saved penalty and a 98th minute winner. The Aberdeen win over Ross County had just about everything. But as you said earlier, Jamie, a great start for Kevin Nisbet to come back and get that winning goal. And do you expect him to really pick up? Because clearly his time down at Millwall didn't go quite to plan.
I think so. I think Aberdeen are looking for that number 9, obviously with Miovski going. And I think Kevin's right in there to replace him. He's a proven goal scorer up here in Scotland. Mm. And like you said, yeah, he'll be disappointed with how it went down south. I think he's probably expected to make more of an impact in the Championship. But it is a difficult league down there, so that doesn't make you a bad player overnight. So I'm sure he's looking to come back up here, score some goals and force his way back into that Scotland squad as well.
Scott, I mean, Aberdeen seemed to kind of ride the luck a little bit on Saturday, but I suppose importantly found a way to win. How far do you think they can go under Jimmy Tillene?
I think that's a sign of something building at Aberdeen. The fact that they weren't at their best but still found a way. I think with the new managers produced in terms of the players he's got, I think McGrath working under him, I like that kind of balance between them, because I think he's an excellent player. I know everybody speaks about the new signings, but he for me is very, very good player. I think me and Jamie have obviously both played with Kevin Nisbet. You can touch on the Championship and a Millwall team that might not play the way that's suited to Kevin. Kevin likes to play football. He can take in, he can lay off. He's got the players with a bit of freedom round about him, which I think will suit him perfectly and suit Aberdeen down to a T. So I think they'll be delighted with how they've started, especially in the manner when you don't play your best and you can get the 3 points. That's a sign of a good side.
One of the other games, Jamie, I feel like every fixture I'm mentioning one of your former clubs.
Sounds about right.
Looking at the the St Johnstone Motherwell game against another late winner, injury time winner from Moses Abiye. A little bit cruel in St Johnstone, but clearly a huge 3 points for Motherwell. What have you made of both of them this season so far?
I think St Johnstone started a little bit better than I thought. I thought at the start of the season they would be really struggling this year. But Levine's obviously organised. He knows his stuff. He knows the league. And they're fighting. They're fighting for points. I don't think their ambition is to be pushing for Europe this year. It's probably to stay in the league and try and get as high in that bottom six as they can. And Motherwell as well was maybe a little bit disappointing over the last couple of years. But I think they should be looking to push into that top six and push for Europe. You know, Kilmarnock doing it last year with a good start. I think Motherwell have started positive again this year. The win on Saturday, it was really big for them. And like we said, last minute goals are what it's all about.
94 minutes played. Miller delivers. Casey knocks it across and it's bundled home! Moses Abiye wins it for Motherwell. And it is claret and amber euphoria in the away end. The Nigerian from Nigeria to North Lanarkshire, lurking under the crossbar and coming up with a whopper.
So we'll see how they get on over the coming months.
The other game I did for TV, Dundee St Mirren, finished 2 each. I think both managers seemed relatively pleased, satisfied with the result and the way the game went. And you'd have to say that both teams at the moment, Scott, are in a pretty good place, aren't they?
Yeah, I think, obviously, touching on St Mirren, they had the European ties, which obviously not having a great depth for their squad and losing Mark O'Hara for big games at that time. It does put a bit of burden on the squad, but I think they've signed well. I think Dundee, obviously, losing McCowan, we might not see how that might affect the team as of yet, but maybe down the line. But both teams very consistent. Two managers who, obviously Tony Dock's worked under Dell in the leagues here for years, and he's really found something good at Dundee, and there's a good feeling about the club at the moment. And I think in terms of St Mirren, I love what Stephen Robinson's done there. I think a lot of youth boy, Fraser Taylor, who's been in and amongst the squad, he was someone I seen last season when I was playing over in Northern Ireland. He was playing at Ballymena and a team who was struggling on a pitch that wasn't great, and seen him a lot of times. He looks very, very good in the ball. I think he'll be one to watch as the season progresses. I think he'll have an impact in that team, and I know the managers come out speaking very highly of him. So I think they'll be happy enough with how they've started, but they'll be looking to maybe get a wee bit more as the season progresses.
Yeah, well, the international break now takes the Premiership away for a couple of weeks, but my thanks to both Scott Allan and Jamie Murphy for their thoughts on the weekend's action, and thank you for listening. Remember, we'll be here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every weekday morning, including during the international break, of course. So to make sure you don't miss out, just follow or subscribe wherever you listen. That's it for now.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swabu, and I used to be a professional footballer, but then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me? This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.